Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping and giving my thoughts on episode 11 of Critical Role Campaign 3. We're just going to hop right into it. The episode starts in Ira's workshop where we last left off from last week, with Ira turning around and revealing that he is aware of their presence, and he asks why the party is there. Chetney tells him that they're here for Gurge, and they want to get him out of there because he went missing and Chetney needs his help. Ira says he's been using Gurge for his gift or curse, depending on how you look at it. Chetney asks if Ira is the Nightmare King, which apparently wasn't something that was revealed in the last session, but I kind of put that together with like his look and stuff. And some people in my comments said that they're not the same, but I was right. I guess something before it happened. Ira says he is. It's called that in some places. Chetney wants Gurge, but Ira says he'll have to talk to Armand about his release, but only after Ira is done with him. Chetney doesn't like this answer and says Ira can use him instead of Gurge. Chetney starts to take off his clothes. Ira says that Chetney doesn't really have anything to offer. Lautna tries to talk it out with him still, even though that seems to be a very not possible option. It seems that it's not going that way, especially with Chetney stepping forward and removing his clothing. Ira thinks the party lacks manners, especially after Imogen tries to read his mind and can't get through and says, "You're not allowed in here." He grabs the blue arcane stone that he created before they came down and throws it onto the ground with a large flash of light, and some tables and chairs come to life. This is where the animated objects seem to be originating from, or at least his magic that he's creating and sending out into the city is where it's coming from. Combat starts, thank God. I thought they were going to be able to talk their way out of this, but I really wanted to see what Chetney could do. And the reason I've been asking for combat for the last couple of sessions is Chetney. I wanted to see what he would do as a rogue. Well, it turns out he's not very good at being a rogue, especially in fighting, because he's a fucking blood hunter. Order of the Lycan, which is dope. He turns into a white werewolf. Not a were-tiger, like I predicted, but still explains his strength score of being his highest stat instead of his dexterity, because he's not a rogue, and I stand by it. The strength thing does not make sense for a rogue. That's just weird to me. Chetney was a secret character, lied about being a rogue. Normally, I'm not a big fan of the secret character idea, but this one actually got out of the way really quick instead of being 20 sessions deep and he finally reveals he's a blood hunter. I'm glad they didn't do that. Especially, it would have been weird because I noticed like almost right away that there was no sneak attack. He didn't try to get any sneak attack, and I'm pretty sure he had a couple of chances. So I don't think he is at all like any rogue. I don't think he's like one rogue and 3 blood hunter. He is just 4 blood hunter levels, I believe. A few other notable things that happen in combat. The party break Gurge out of his cage so he can join the fight. Orym, Dorian both go down, but that doesn't matter because they both, on their respective turns, roll natural 20s to get up and kind of escape Ira's sight because he had turned to someone else as a threat. So they were both able to take actions. Dorian was able to scoop up FCG Turtle. An FCG got turned into a turtle. He was able to scoop up him and kind of roll away from the combat to get a little bit of distance. And he was, just able to roll away. Orym was able to do another attack while he was, in this bad position. Imogen gets messed up herself. It seems those 3 always end up finding a way to get hurt. Orym is a up-close threat. Dorian seems to want to go up close to combat. And Imogen is just a threat in general, so attacking her just makes a lot of sense from a villainous perspective. At some point during the fight, Ira says to Fern, "You smell familiar, like home, like Calloway," which is great. I like this, giving a villain a deeper connection to someone in the party will instantly make that person and other party members around them care more about dealing with him than just him being the bad guy. So I like a deeper connection, and Matt is giving one to Fern. And Chetney also has one because this guy took Gurge, who was trying to help him find more werewolf people to control his lycanthropy, which I really like. I like that there is now two connections to Ira, the Nightmare King. Very good. After a bit of combat, Ira flicks a switch on the machine that he used to create the arcane stone in that basement, and then he dimension doors out. After some looking around, Ashton says the machine is no longer safe to be near, and they need to make their escape. Lautner picks up some letters and notes. They make their way out through the broken window once again to find a guard on the other side of it, and kind of goes up to them and goes, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Chetney scares him as he is a werewolf, and the guy runs off. They are able to get out of the Moon Tower walls, through the courtyards, and over the wall. After a bit of running, there's a massive flash and an explosion of blue and purple arcane energy, and the Moon Tower's pieces begin to fall down with the rain. Most of the party being able to avoid it, with the exception of Dorian, who gets KO'd by the rock because he would have only been at like one hit point. And FCG takes some damage as well, turning back from a turtle into FCG. He heals Dorian and carries him to the gondola. They get on the gondola. They look very suspicious as they're covered in blood, and the gondola operator says, "Did you guys see that?" And they say no. Ashton points out that makes them look stupidly suspicious. Gurge tells the party that Ira had him bite 3 people. We learn a bit about Gurge, why he's here now, and how he became a werewolf, and that he did not bite Chetney. They make their way to the Weary Way Tavern, where they get the truth from Chetney about him having to flee from Uthadern after he kind of pissed off his employer. Instead of it just being like, I had to leave because I didn't have a job, he pissed him off and had to run from the sellswords there, or the guards there. And while he was hunting, he got into a fight with a werewolf, got bit, killed it, saw it turn back into a person, and that is how he became a Lycan. He came to find Gurge so he could control it better. He also seems to have a little bit of control over it, seems better than the average person. Gurge explains he learned to control his lycanthropy from the Claret Order, or Claret Order. Matt comes up with some of the weirdest names. Gurge doesn't want anything to do with Chetney or the party anymore, because it's been nothing but a pain in his ass since he met Chetney. So he's going to go to sleep and leave in the morning, never to speak to them ever again. Chetney still wants some help from Gurge, so Gurge gives him a name, Ajet Dela? I think it's Dela, but I'm, never sure with Matt. That is the man Gurge was looking for to help Chetney before he got captured. Fern wants something in return for helping Gurge get out, and she wants him to bite her. But Gurge says, "No, I took an oath not to do that." Before Gurge goes to bed, the party asks about Ira and anyone else that he saw. He says he saw Vale and his boss. Fern asks Gurge if her scent is very similar to Ira's. And Gurge kind of smells her for a minute and goes, "Yeah, it's similar, but not totally the same." Gurge says the other people that he saw were tall, rich, fancy dressed, but mostly human. After Gurge goes to sleep, Chetney says he understands there will be some distrust towards him for lying about what he was and, why he's here. But he wants to stay with the party as they are strength in numbers. Dorian sort of points out the fact that he called them friends the other day, But Chetney kind of dismisses this and says, "Friend Lee, you guys are friendly," and I like that, friend Lee. Which, obviously, diversion. He likes them all. And the party, in turn, likes him. There is a bit of distrust, mainly from Ashton. So, that's fun. At this point, Laudna pulls out some of the papers that she took from Ira's office and finds they're completely blank. They try some National Treasure shit, which I love that movie, to get the writing come back, but nothing happens, which is unfortunate. Cage, you lied to me. Ashton tells them about a job they could do to get them out of town, especially after blowing up the moon tower, but instead of going into too much detail, they go to bed. The next morning, Ashton tells them more about the job and how it's kind of a bet between his employer and someone else, and that his employer is the person that the golem was stolen from. So, in case that comes up, Dorian needs to be ready, and the job will take them to Heartmoor. They remember they have to go to a ball in a week, and Heartmoor is a 10-day trip all the way around, so it would be a bit of a pain in the ass. So they go to Lord Esteros once more to see what they should do for the next move. They tell him they were involved with the explosion and that Ira is behind the furniture company of life and that he is the Nightmare King. A lot to tell a dude who was just chilling a minute ago. They tell him the name Armand, which he says Armand is a Treshy involved in this deep mystery that Matthew's building with the Treshies and Ira now, and it's very good, very layered. He says he can set up a meeting with the Anger, so he does. Gives them a place to go to, have a spa day. Tells them he'll work on getting them into the ball a bit more, and hands Imogen her letter to get into Starpoint, so she can look around the library and learn. After some talking with him, the party go for their spa day, and Chetney goes to get a chisel. I'm just gonna, be brief about it. Some of this, because some of this was long. They have a good spa day. Dorian and Chetney, get a nice massage, and Chetney starts howling. After their spa day, they go to the Lumos house to meet the Anger, Oshad. They're met with a couple of guards outside who are told to stand down by an older woman who is wearing all white, which is some sort of custom for mourning, which is kind of odd. We, in real world, we wear a lot of black for our mourning, so white is a nice change and it's quite interesting. Matt slowly drip feeding us world information is fun. She asked why they wish to meet Oshad. Orym tells her of a similar attack that happened in Zephyra on the Voice of the Tempest, and he wants to see if Oshad can give him more about the attack. She takes them to Oshad. Oshad wants to know why he's there. Orym explains the same thing, in that he is an associate with Jarrett, a character from Campaign 1 who was close to Vox Machina. He worked with them. He helped protect their keep at one point, and was the person who was selling Scanlan, spoilers I guess, he was selling Scanlan drugs in Campaign 1. So, very, very deeply rooted with Campaign 1 and some of its characters. And Orym having another connection to Campaign 1 is very interesting. I'm glad they're kind of taking off these reins of, Campaign 1 callbacks. And Campaign 2 is very, very light. You had the occasional character show up, like there was the one ship privateer who showed up in... Crap, I forget where now. Where Jester's from. I'm forgetting the name. But they were on the... they were looking for a pirate captain or a navigator of some sort, which is where they met Orly, but they also met a female elf who was someone who drove them to the Water Ashari. So that was like the extent of their Campaign 1 connections to Campaign 2, but Campaign 3 goes much deeper and has already had characters directly related. I mean, Campaign 2 also had Kiki's mom and Alora and Kima. But I feel like Campaign 3, from 10 episodes deep versus 130 episodes deep, has done way more in connection to Campaign 1, which I don't know if it's done on purpose because the Legend of Vox Machina series is coming out, or if they've just decided it's time for us to start, saying that these world moments are important and we can include them in character stuff now. I don't know. Fun to think about. Orym asks for his story about the attack, and Oshad tells them that they were attacked in Heartmoor. The attackers were all wearing black, dark clothing, hiding their face. They were all extremely skilled, and they all had venomed weapons. He couldn't see their faces. Before he passed out, he saw the twins melt into black liquid. That's fucked. When he woke up, he was back in the Lumos house in the city. They learn from someone else that the twins were in their 20s and that they were looking into crystals that grow in Heartmoor. So now they have even more reasons to go investigate Heartmoor. So with that, they go to Jenna Huxham's house to talk to her about Ashton's job. But instead of meeting her, they're met with a servant that Ashton mocks. Seems to have some sort of history with him. I mean, of course he does. And tells them that the new nobodies came by to pass that on to Jenna. Or Jenna Huxham. Dorian and Laudna try to see if that name, the new nobodies, works for an arrival at the ball, but they think it needs some work. After that, they make their way to the Starpoint library for Imogen, where she starts looking into books about gaining powers from, mental powers to telekinesis and stuff like that. And she finds one book specifically about red storms and how it seems to have happened in a handful of people throughout certain spots and times, a 30-year sort of time period, or a every 30-year sort of thing. And in the book is Imogen's mom's name, which is interesting. And that is where Matt ends the episode. So, big takeaways. It seems Imogen's mom is connected to her powers somehow. Chetney's a werewolf, which is dope. And not a rogue, which I know some people in my comments for earlier videos were thinking they didn't want a rogue because rogues make it a lot of things easier, and now they don't have that. And I agree. I think rogues do allow, especially a party this big, to be able to avoid a lot of issues. And up to this point, they've been able to avoid a lot of combat. I don't think it's because he's a rogue. They've been able to talk their way out of a lot of things. But if he was a rogue, they'd be able to do even less, or do even less combat. I remember thinking back to one of the earlier episodes when they tried to snuck into Esteros's, building there to see who's been stealing from him. Had they just had someone to pick locks, it would have made all of them going in investigating super easy. So not having that is going to make things a lot more difficult for this party, which I like. They are now, if they get caught, terrorists on this city because they blew up a friggin' place, because Ira's not supposed to be there. It's a secret facility, and they were seen leaving by a guard. Hopefully he died in the explosion, which is kind of fucked up to say, but they're gonna get screwed if he's not. And then it's just all good stuff. We learned the Treshies are involved even deeper than initially thought, like way deeper. We get to leave this city soon, which sounds interesting. I like this city. As they've gone through each episode, I've been able to piece together more and more of it, especially after seeing some of the art that people have put together for it. But with each spire and the gondolas now, I have a very good picture of this city, so it's going to be interesting to see what else Matt puts into this campaign, because the Odiran Wildlands are very interesting to me, just looking at a map. Very intrigued to see what Heartmoor is like, especially if there's these crystals growing there. So, yeah, I'm intrigued by all the layers of things kind of mixing together. I'm curious to see how these assassins link to Ira or to the Treshies. And, very intrigued to see how Matt's going to piece all this together. That being said, that was episode 11, my thoughts I liked this episode. Liked the combat. It was probably one of the most intrigued I've been for combat. Usually when combat comes on, I'm kind of, because combat is in many ways the least important part of a lot of this. I mean, sure, some people can go down and get killed, which you pay attention to, but there are lots of times where someone just moves and does not a whole lot. Like, Laudna missed every attack she had, or nearly every attack she had. She hit it with Hex and some sort of blindness early, and that was about it. So, sometimes you have long stretches of combat where not a whole lot happens, but I was deeply entrenched in this combat. I really liked it, and maybe if they space out combat more like this, I'll be way more intrigued by combat when the time comes. Because that was one thing that I thought both Campaign 1 and 2 kind of did. They had lots of combat, and I wasn't terribly intrigued by a lot of it. I would be intrigued by the big boss fights, but some of the smaller ones wouldn't matter. And this was a big boss fight, but it was also spaced out really well from the last fight, which I really liked. So, yeah, that's it. My thoughts on episode 11. Hopefully the recap was good enough. I'm trying to keep it a little vague, a little spoiler-free-ish, so you can kind of watch it and then go, watch this, and then if you want to on Monday, watch the re-upload. So if I'm a little vague on some points, or if I skip over some of the more character-focused stuff in the spa, my bad. But yeah, I will see you guys on Tuesday for whatever my next video is going to be. Peace.